Hello and welcome to the Powerful African Women podcast.
The podcast to empower the power in you.
I'm Aïssatou.
And I am Sarah.
And welcome to a new episode of our Paw Series.
Yes, welcome. And I hope you like it already, so
yes.
Stay tuned always.
Yes. Alright, so here I am actually in this new setting, in this film episode because Sarah has a different setting. And as we are recording this episode, I'm actually back home in Senegal, so I had to adjust a bit my setting.
I know. I'm excited for you. I'm actually super jealous. I'm not gonna lie, because girl, I've been trying to go to Senegal for the longest time. It never happened. But it's gonna happen.
I keep inviting
I'm
her.
excited. Girl, adult life, you have to plan a year in advance.
Yes.
So nobody's coming, so I can't wait though. I can't wait to be in the sun, around all the darkness, everything, I'm excited. The melanin.
Exactly, melanin pop. And actually, you guys if you want to see us, just check our YouTube channel. And you'll be with us. So as always, we are here. Like I have my ataya, which is like, the Senegalese tea.
Mon cher, first of all, it's not only Senegalese, it's not only Senegalese. We have it in Mali, we have it in Ivory Coast, we have it in Guinea. I'm joking. I'm not joking. I'm drinking just green tea, because we don't have attire here. Yeah, it's not bad. I just need something to calm me down. So let's just
tea
do
always
this.
Works. Okay.
It really does work. Yeah. So what's
today,
up with you?
So I'm good. I'm back home as I was saying, and actually today my topic was totally inspired by my experience.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk a bit about it really soon, but it's more, I would say, politically oriented. So get ready.
Okay.
So
am I ready for a debate right now? No.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a debate. It's gonna be a polemic. I don't know how to say that, but
okay.
That kind of controversial topic. Okay. So as always, to get you in the mood, Sarah, I'm gonna ask you. I prepared 3 questions. So my first fireside chat question is: first, ultimately, do you see yourself growing old in the US, where you are currently living, right? Or do you see yourself going back to an African country, either Gabon, Ivory Coast, or Senegal?
Senegal would be my dream, but I'm not ready for the heat. To be honest, the funny thing is we literally had the conversation, my sister and I, last week about it, right? And we were kind of freaking out about the whole idea of living, of staying here, and retire here. So I'll say no. Ideally, seriously, I don't want to stay here. Like, the US is a great country, it has a lot of opportunities. I really cannot complain about my life here, But if I want my peace of mind and just from my childhood back home, I'll still choose back home.
Okay. Second question: what do you think would be the toughest challenge for you if you decided to go back home? I mean, to go back to Africa.
The toughest, it depends, right? Like, right now, remember, I attempted to go back to work for a little bit before COVID, right? So, and I loved it. I really loved it. So for me, it depends. If I'm going as a young professional, obviously, my biggest challenge or my biggest, I guess, the biggest factor would be maybe the pay. I just want to make sure that the pay is worth it, right? For me to change my whole setting, or like for me to kind of give up some opportunities that I have here. But if it's after retirement, what will be the challenge? Listen, there's not much challenges, so I'll have everything, inshallah. So why would I care?
Okay, good. Okay, and the last question. I think you are starting to get the topic, but the last question.
I know, I like it.
The last question is: what luxury from the Western world couldn't you live without, and you would definitely need if you decided to go back? Something you need,
Constant electricity and water.
Good.
No, the funny thing you can laugh at it, but I remember, like, I went in 2016. That was the last time I went home, and I was staying at my aunt's. We had like, she was well off and everything, but in a good neighborhood. But still, this water and electricity issue was dramatic. And obviously, I grew up in it, but coming here where you have everything and going back, it's a different. Like, you tend to get spoiled. I would say it, right? So I think that would be the biggest thing: the electricity and the mosquitoes. Listen, that's the
Okay.
mosquitoes.
Okay. So actually, okay. Before talking, like, just bear with me because I'm gonna start the topic being really controversial. You might feel insulted, but that's not the goal. I just want people
It's
to be
okay.
aware of something, okay? So get ready. So, first, I want to talk about colonization in Africa. It took place in the mid 19th century, officially, ended in the mid 20th, okay? And it can be defined as the exploitation and plundering of African resources, basically, and had really deep consequences on the and shift on our societies. It had a really deep impact.
Obviously, yeah.
And actually, I want to talk about another subtopic of colonialism, that is neo-colonialism, which is a counterpart actually of colonialism, and it's defined according to the Oxford Dictionary. I looked it up. As the use of economic, political, cultural, and or other pressure to control or influence other countries, especially former dependencies. So that's the official definition. For me, basically, a neo-colonizer is often like a white dude, often, who comes to Africa or an African country and thinks that he actually owns everything. So he kind of, just the way that he treats his, like, the locals. It can be, for instance, his domestic workers, or it can even go to the way where he just takes a prostitute, a local prostitute, and think that it's normal because he just
He's superior.
He's
He
superior.
feels superior. Yeah.
That's what I call a neo-colonizer. And actually, that's not what I'm going to talk about today. What I want to talk about is us, and us having to be cautious not to be the next neo-colonizers. And what I mean by us, yes, I know. What I mean by us, I want to talk about us, the diaspora, those who have been, in French school or American school, and have a quite different mindset from 90% of the population of our countries, Mainly 90% of the population in our countries are poor or live in very different conditions than us, So that's what I'm gonna talk about.
And okay, this is controversial, and I would like, okay, I don't know maybe how this topic is gonna go, right? In the sense that you might think that it's only the diaspora doing that, but it's not always the diaspora. It's only whenever you start getting money, you have a different mindset. So let's just go into the topic, and I'll see. Depending on what you tell me, I will have to disagree.
Okay, so yeah, I'm using really strong words, but just to raise awareness. That's the goal. So first of all, I think the main idea of the topic that I'm bringing is that I really think that we have to be truly careful not to try to impose our way of living or our way of thinking to the local, in our way of working, our way of thinking, our way of acting. Sometimes we can even seem arrogant, trying to impose something, a way of doing things. So, and actually the key word here is impose. So first of all, frankly, I think it's really dangerous because we are disconnected from the reality of the country. As I was saying, most people do not have a driver, do not have a car with a driver, a house with a room and housekeepers. It's just the way of living of like the 10% of that country. So keep in mind that often, like the day-to-day, like the people, most of the people, actually, their day-to-day living is through hustle. They're hustling just to get enough for the next day. My second point,
again, just going back to the fact, don't you think that it's more economical, more than being a different type of neo-colonialist? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's just one part of it. Like the economic,
Okay.
I just wanted to show people to show people, and it's actually gonna come in the next point.
Mm-hmm.
But to bear that in mind, and actually it's gonna come to in the fourth point actually. But the second point for me is that because no matter what we think, actually we are always, because of the way we have been like educated and all, we are a bit brainwashed, or at least we are a bit influenced by the Western world, right? Because of the custom, the way we think. So we really need to be careful not to impose that when we come back. And that will actually help us maybe also just avoid the mistakes that the Western world has already made. There are some mistakes coming from that, the individualism, some stuff like that.
Yeah, I know that's my biggest scare. That's literally my biggest scare about just whatever we need to take back, to,
exactly.
Just with the way family structures are reshaped in Africa, that's my biggest scare, like the individualism part. Yeah.
You see? So that's one of the points. The third risk is that, the context here is very different, and it's actually linked to just what we say, So trying to live exactly or be exactly like you are when you are in Europe or in America, you cannot do it here because it's just a different context. But sometimes we tend to forget that because the societies here have also tended to try to reproduce what's happening in the other, in the other part of the world. So bear that in mind. And actually, my fourth point, that is more societal, if I can say that, is that often we tend, a lot of people, when they say, okay, I want to come back to Africa, I want to move back to Africa, I want to move back to Senegal, Ivory Coast, wherever, they have such high expectations. By that, I mean that we tend to idolize what it is living, here. I have, for instance, this friend. So she actually got a job. It was in Senegal, So she's actually, I think she's from Guinea, so Sahon. and she was traumatized by her experience in Senegal. So because she expected, she used to come to Senegal for holidays, with her family. So it was fun, But living here is way different. And she realized that once she came back. And I think, and that's actually my last, just showing the problem point, is that we really need to be careful not to idolize what it is coming back. Because if we idolize that, we will have so high expectation that we might, start being really judgmental.
Yeah.
It's really dangerous.
But I do agree, I just feel like, like you said, it's not okay to idealize, but even as natives, I guess, of those places, what you should be expecting going back, right? Yeah. So I think, like, even whenever you said, like, we shouldn't idealize, it's kind of like it's saying something that, like, is so common sense. It's like you often go every vacation. Yeah, no, I do agree. You forget, but you often go every vacation. You have constant relationships, or at least you try to have a constant relationship with the country, and like, I don't know, but I just feel like it's complicated.
I think why we idolize is because the hardships that we are seeing. For instance, me living in Paris, you see, so many hardships. You're isolated. You need to do a lot of things by yourself. And you're like, oh, if I were back in Senegal, I would have this, and that. But what you forget is that I would also lose this, and this.
This and that, yeah.
You really tend to see only the positive thing. And what I want to add is, for those that were, raised here, we went to school here. Our parents actually did a lot of the things, they took care of a lot of things. So we haven't had the experience of having to take care of everything.
Yeah, in the continent.
Exactly, in the continent. So that was just
because the realities are different. The struggle is different. Like, you can have an education, but there, the chances are still not the same. Like, if you're not transferred from outside, to the continent, it's a different structure. And I do agree that sometimes you go there, you're like, oh, I have this and that, so I should be fine. And then you get to the continent, you realize that listen, the politics are just different, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's what I wanted to raise. That so that's the main issue, I've observed and I wanted to share. And I actually like had some, maybe I think 3 points as a solution, that we need to adjust our mindset to avoid getting into that what I'm calling, but I know it's really like hard, the next colonizer, symptom. Try not to impose something or think that you are better. So that's my advice. I would say I'm seeing Saron is like, I don't like that word.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard.
I
I would
know.
say it's because no, I feel like even personally I understand what you mean by trying not to be the next neocolonizer. Just because even just for me I think, like our next, like our generation, whenever we try to move back home, we have such expectations. We want to live a certain lifestyle and
Yes.
even during vacations and all. But I don't think that it also, I guess, helps developing the country, right? In the sense that,
Yeah.
like you said, we are trying to reflect the Western world. I don't think they're trying to reflect, but it's kind of like you trying to um, use, or you're trying to kind of bring a light of hope, because obviously it also shows development, right? Like the certain
Exactly.
lifestyle that we have here and that we're trying to have over there is what I guess development is looking like now. Choosing to maybe having a certain lifestyle and forgetting, I guess, the culture, or like forgetting where you come from, and like you become this whole different person. That's for me a personal problem.
Yes. And
You
that's
know,
yeah, that's it.
and that's like you forgetting where you come from, and it's really a personal problem because you go. Let's just take your example, right? Now you're in Senegal.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know how the conditions are, but obviously there's some stuff that you miss in Paris, right, and in
Yeah.
France,
Yeah.
right? But does that mean that now you're gonna look at, I don't know, the next person like, look at him here. It seems like he's suffering. I don't want to be in his position, this and that. No, it's just a personal problem, in my opinion. Like there's so many people, our parents even, they've traveled the world, but they come back home and they become the same. So it's like
Yeah.
you want to either change for the best, or like develop your country or develop your village, but everything else, it's always a personal problem to me.
Yeah.
Just
But actually, and that's where the last thing I wanted to talk about, I think we can kind of generalize some kind of mindset we should all have.
Yeah.
That could help us be careful on that. My first advice would be, first, you need to observe and listen. By that I mean that you shouldn't automatically judge, because behavior are an emanation of social constructs, right? So first, try to understand in that context, why is that person behaving like that, or why is he doing this or that, or saying or telling me this or that. Okay, try to understand. Secondly, try accompanying instead of imposing. By that I mean, once you observed, okay, you understood, and now you wish to change something. For instance, the fact that we are always late. That's a simple example. Compared to Europe, when you say 3 p.m., the person is going to be there at 3. But in, here, it's not that. So
not even here, as Africans.
Yeah,
whenever we travel abroad, we just pride ourselves in being late.
Exactly. So
yeah.
So you want to change that. First, you need to try to explain to that person, why is it bothering you that she's late or he is late? Because explain first, try to explain, and then try to show him what it would make and what it would bring him or her if he or she incorporate that change. For instance, if you tell someone, okay, you work in a company, the person is late and it's always late. So you explain that, for instance, I'm just giving a stupid example, but you say, okay, but you know that if we start that meeting at 3, that will give us time, that will give us more time to do this or that. So in the end, we're gonna make more money. So in the end, it's better for you.
It's better for us.
Just try to explain that. And I'm gonna give an example that is typically Senegalese. I'm gonna call it the Senegalese nonchalance. What is that? Is that often in services, like for instance in restaurants, women, most often women are nonchalant. It's just the way they talk, the way they would take your order. It's like they don't even care. So if you have employees like that, you need to explain why it is so important that they need to show that they are like, quite professional, and what it can bring actually, what image they can give. You can even film them and tell them, okay, do you see yourself and the way you take your order? This is not okay. Just try to help the other to get into your,
But now you see, right? Whenever you say that, you say nonchalant, and you notice that why? Just because whenever you hear in the US or in France, what do you notice? That the customer service is almost perfect.
Yes.
Right? So those are the things. So you expect them also to react that way, right? But it's a different culture. Even in Gabon, I went there, and I mean, God forgive me, my Gabonese friends, but I noticed it at some point too. Like some of the servers, they don't care, and I noticed, I don't know, but I noticed some of those women servers, they don't like other women people there, but they like to serve men.
Yes.
Right? So whereas here it's very professional, and if you do stuff like that, you can get fired. So it's also again transmitting those expectations that you have. And you see.
Yeah, but to the point that I think it's universally, you can say that it's good. It's good to be more professional, because it can ultimately bring more satisfaction. So definitely it's something from your Western mindset that you want to bring back to Africa. But just the way you bring it back, that's where I think it's important. And that's what I'm explaining. It's just the way you bring it. Not imposing, but trying to transmit. And actually that brings us to my last point. That is the importance. You need to think that you have to be able to adapt your behavior. You need to be ready to learn to adapt. Otherwise, you might be totally rejected. I know here, for instance, if you're someone from France and you come back here and you try to leave the Western way, like imposing, being like, you're 5 minutes late, this is not normal, which is not actually, it's not okay to be late, but just trying to, impose and then reject the other one. Well, you'll be treated like, she's a tubap. There is no English equivalent, but it's just what it is, So you'll be rejected. So you're coming back, but you're not coming back as a real African or real Senegalese. You're coming back as a former person living in Europe coming back to Africa, and you are not trying to integrate that social construct. And that's what I wanted us to be aware of,
Thank you. That's actually a great topic, and I will make sure eventually when I go back, I don't know when exactly, I will try my best not to be the new form of neo-colonialist that I started rejecting.
Sorry.
I do my best. Actually, I usually go, I adapt really easily. That's something that I pride myself to. It's good, and I don't think I've ever had an issue like that. All I do is whenever I go back home is I check it from the streets. So there's, the electricity issue. Listen, I grew up there, so you'll be ashamed of me, But I do agree it's a good topic to just be aware of. Especially for the people who are returning home right now. Just be more conscious and don't think you're better than others just because you live in the US or in Paris.
Yes.
Or in Morocco, or in Tunisia, or in China, or in Brazil, or in Russia.
Exactly. Thank you, Saron, for this map of the world. Okay. So Girl. All right. That was So that was it for me. That was my little topic that I'm bringing you from Senegal. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you liked it.
I liked it, and I am sure they will. I am sure you will, okay?
All right. Well, thank you very much to our listeners. And in the meantime, as always, don't forget to bring out the power in you. Yes. Bye-bye. Period. Bye.
Cheers. Always.